Sorry I'm a little late, guys. Currently entertaining an American, so we were out for dinner and lost track of time. Oh, creaky chair is creaky. Yeah, oh, get all of these models out onto the table, please. I think that's all of them. One more. There we go. Dr. No, hello, buddy. How you doing? When will I see the error of my ways? Supper with Bando. Ah, my Chinese knockoff. Never. I will never see the error of my ways. Everything I do is perfect. I am 100% correct in all things. I've seen the truth that is Games Workshop. I've worked for Games Workshop. I am on the other side of the truth. I am the post-truth of Games Workshop. I have been there and I have done that. And I'll tell you what, you'd have to pay me an awful lot of money to get me working there again. I'm gonna actually fucking... Have I got my first clog? I think I have my first cloggage of one of these paints. Oh wow, that took a while. That'll do. My friendly local game shop does not have an issue with smells or diversity. It has a large, diverse selection of terrible smells. It's pretty special there. But it doesn't smell as bad as my local Games Workshop does. My local Games Workshop is disgusting. Yeah, you'd have to pay me good money to step into my local Games Workshop. I've got zero reason to go there now. I can buy models cheaper. I can not be patronised. I can actually find stock anywhere else. Stop targeting my family and accept that Games Workshop keeps a political environment. Get super political games instead of the lovely acceptance of Games Workshop. I will never accept them. I think you have a problem. You sound like you have Stockholm Syndrome. I went very heavy on the oils on these guys and I've left them far too long and I don't think I can clean them up anymore, so this is just going to be a how much can I save of these models. So Dr. No, what are you working on this evening, buddy? I know. I'll do a Death Company themed Heresy Blood Angels army. That'll be fun. It won't possibly become the most monotonous and boring painting experience of your life. Right? But I've got to get these guys finished. They're supposed to be facing my Night Lords, and I just haven't done anything with them. I always liked the Death Company ever since the second edition Death Company box set was released, and I got that as a kid. The camera arm I ordered has arrived, so once the area is cleared up and my painting table is repainted, refinished to have a nicer finish than just white spray paint, I should be able to set up a stream where you guys can see me with an airbrush. I think you guys will enjoy that. You'll just get to see how nice and easy it is to paint with an airbrush. Realise that actually there is very little reason not to have one nowadays. Unless you're Swedish with a cat, of course. I was thinking of doing a Heresy Thursday video today, but I finished work at 6. We had dinner booked at 7. We've just got back, so I just haven't had time to do it, unfortunately. But I'll give you the cliff notes. I really like that new White Skull model. I think he looks really good. Yeah, no, I like him. I will get him when he's available through my sources, because he looks nice, but he does not look 28 to 40 pounds nice. Actually, I should show this to Lonnie, because he was asking about oil paints over black. That's what this is, just brown oil paint over black. The faces obviously still need lots of work. Bouncing my 5-week-old to sleep to your stream. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Congratulations. A friend of mine's recently had a newborn as well, so commiserations on your sleep schedule. I'll try to keep it down, and I won't be loud and jarring, and I'll let the dull, dulcet tones of my voice help you with your task. But congratulations, buddy. That's great to hear. More people need to have kids. Kids are great. How are you balancing your hobby life with having a kid? Has everything just been put on pause at the moment? I guess everything just gets put away, and your hobby becomes catching 40 winks whenever you can. I've got to get these Blood Angels finished. My self-imposed rule is that I am not allowed to open any of the Mark III box set and work on. I mean, I've opened it to go through it and stuff, but I am not allowed to start working on any of it until these 2 squads of tactical marines at least are finished. And it's kicking my ass. Yeah, an hour or two between. That's good. That's good. So I think it's important. I think a lot of people. I mean, it's understandable. You put your life on pause when you have a baby. That is kind of the idea. But you need to be healthy in your own life as well. A couple of very good friends of mine have had a kid who's. Oh, he must be. Yeah, he's 6 now. 6 months. 6 months now. Luckily, they're both personal trainers, so all they do is fitness. So they've managed to sort of involve him in a lot of their workouts. So their clients love having him around. You know, instead of using the weights they do it all with little baby Henry. They pick him up and use him like, you know, the weight and stuff, which is always quite funny because he always really enjoys that. Hey Ballistus, how you doing? Thanks for coming along. Appreciate you being here. Scales has got a Spartan 5 cataphracti to oil wash and weather. We are firmly in the camp of loving oil washes here on this channel. Oil washes are great. Gritty, grimy Space Marines are for the win. Keep your parade yard finish to the Imperial Fists and the Emperor's Children. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I did my oil wash on these guys and then forgot to wash a lot of it off, and now it's just dried to a point where it's not coming off, and any attempt to remove it is just removing regular paint. So they're dirty. They're really, really dirty. Corvinus Wargaming is listening while I wait for my lamb to finish cooking. I love lamb. Lamb is an underrated meat. My American friend was very disgusted when I told him about, in the UK we have mint sauce with our lamb, and just how absolutely phenomenal a good roast lamb joint is with mint sauce. Oh, it's so good. I haven't had it in quite some time. They're not a roast like lamb. And I had to throw away about £7 of chicken yesterday. I was very disappointed with that. Wonderful Aldi, you pick it up nice and cheap, but then it goes off within a couple of days, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. It would have been fine if I'd stuck to my schedule, because I would have cooked it up in the evening, taken it to work, and it would all been good. But with my American friend over, everything has gone out the window schedule-wise. Everything's been all over the place, and because he's only over for a couple of days, I kind of have to drop everything. Yeah, you can see how much of the oils is. Get that to focus. You can see just how much is on there. Like, there's the black, and that's the stuff with the oils on it that just won't come off now. That's fine. I'm going to do some more weathering. I'm going to use some nice light browns to add some more like dusty weathering to them. Love the model you're painting, Death Company. Yeah, Melissa. So these are Heresy era Blood Angels. But in a couple of the books, they mention how when they're on suicide missions, they'd regularly... Pardon me, I'm getting really bad indigestion. They'd regularly paint their armour black with red markings to indicate that they were on a suicide mission, or as they called it, in the company of death. The most famous ones being the Blood Angels who were left behind to guard Baal when Sanguinius ended up fighting the Ruinstorm. And one of the knights errant, I think it was Tylus Rubio, ends up going to Baal because they're not entirely sure the Blood Angels are loyal. So that's his job, is to figure out if the Blood Angels are loyal. And he gets found out and they interrogate him, sort of thing, and he explains the situation, and they think Sanguinius is dead at this point, so they all paint their armour black, and he asks them where they're going, and they're going, oh, we're just going off to kill Horus. He's like, there's 20 of you, and he's like, yeah, we're going to go kill Horus. And that's it. There's no discussion. It's going to happen. We're on a suicide mission, we're off to kill Horus. Do you want to come along? We'll catch you later. So I thought an idea of a Death Company style army would be nice and striking, very different on the battlefield. It's got fluff justification, and it's very different to, you wouldn't see many armies like it. The fluff being that the world they're on is such a horrible place. It's I wouldn't say it's a death world, but basically it gets hot. The sunlight gets so hot during the day that it can melt power armor, and they're fighting the Night Lords at night and trying to survive during the day, hiding in these cave systems, and they've just kind of given up. They've realised that actually maybe we're not getting off this planet alive. All of them except the Moritat, who has decided he is most definitely getting off this fucking planet alive. He will survive. But the rest of them are a bit depressed. Love a good lamb sauce. We don't eat enough of it here in the US. No, seriously, lamb's a great underrated meat. Good bit of New Zealand lamb is fantastic. Welsh lamb's really good. You can cook it really nicely with like some Moroccan spices in a tagine or something. Oh. But yeah, good proper English roast dinner with some roast potatoes and some vegetables. Oh yeah. If I hadn't just eaten fish and chips, I'd be grumbly in the tumbly. Well, I'll be getting that anyway, but that's because of IBS. There needs to be more opportunities to have mint sauce, not just with that. I've started having mint sauce on my kebabs after a night out, and I'll tell you what, it works as well with chicken as it does with anything else. You just have to be a little bit more adventurous and try it out. But a good mint sauce can go with a lot of stuff. Anything that's really fatty, mint sauce will work with. Remember, you do get the two types. You get mint sauce, which is nice and runny, but it's very sharp. And you can get mint jelly, which is very sweet as well. Just got to be a little bit more adventurous. That's pretty cool. Any books that mention this law? Yeah, there is. There's the Tylos Rubio book, and there's one during the Solar War, but I don't remember what the name of the books are. If you just Google Tylos Rubio on Baal, you will find it. Let's make that not look so shit. Blood Angels were my plan for a second Heresy army before I got priced out of the game completely. It does suck when that happens. It's a little painful when you realise that actually the army you want to get is not a feasible army. You know, you'd want to do things, you want to do things in a certain order. There have been armies that I've planned that I could do, but they would literally take me years to collect. Simply because of how long it would take me to save up the money for them. Which is not great. I'm going to take me some make tummy feel goods. Because I'm a weak human individual with a terrible digestive tract. You know, if I want fire raptors and storm eagles or whatever, I simply can't afford to put the money away and get them, you know, when I need 7 of them in an army. So it very much would have to be I buy one, I build it and paint it until it's finished, and all that time that it takes me to build it and paint it, I'm saving up money to get the next one, and it would still be several weeks, if not months, before I can afford another one. You know, I know Games Workshop's a business and they want you to buy their products, but I have to pay my rent first, or more accurately, my mortgage. I'm currently working on Ultramarines while listening to the stream. Well, thank you very much. I enjoy the Ultramarines as well. For me, the thing that really sold the Ultramarines on me was the book Night Fane. I go over it a lot, but Night Fane was great. And I think a lot of the Heresy books really do the Ultramarines justice. The Honoured was really good. And they really kind of make them stand out as more of an interesting faction than they get enough credit for. Because 40k has them so dulled down. I mean, it's so bad that it's like there's meta piss takes of the Ultramarines in Nightbringer. I think it's Nightbringer. No, it might be the... yeah, it was Nightbringer. Where literally they, you know, you got kicked out of the Ultramarines. What did you do? Did you turn left instead of right on the parade field? You know, even the Iron Warriors are taking the piss out of the Ultramarines. The Alpha Major project was popping, just got out of uni class. Welcome, welcome. We're working on the backlogs, you know. This stream's all about getting back through models that you've been putting off. Projects that maybe you haven't had time to do, or projects you've maybe got bored with, and you know you've started something new instead. But this is an excuse to sit here and just work on something that has been sat around for a bit too long. And for me, it's my Blood Angels. Story of DayZ, morning, what brand brush? These are... I have no idea. Pro Art with an E, Series 60. You can pick them up for about £5-6 from ABC Brushes. They are the cheapest of the cheap, and I love them because they do exactly what they say on the tin, and they don't have a habit of splitting until you've absolutely shagged them out. But because they cost about 60p a brush, I don't mind that. So I usually pick up a couple of packs every, I don't know, 6 months or so. It's usually whenever I go on to a show, because they usually have their stall at a lot of the shows here in the UK, and I can just pick up a couple of packs from them. They curve pretty quick, but I've learnt to paint with the curve, and actually it gives me a nice fine edge that I can use quite easily. What army? These are 30k Blood Angels, but in an alternate colour scheme. I broke my college... I'm a broke college student, so I put a bullet and started using 3D printed after you paint them. Honestly, no one could tell the difference. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of 3D printers. I'm a big fan of people, you know, the community working together and making their own models. You know, yeah, I'd love to support Games Workshop. I'd love to support the hobby as is, but frankly, they're not moving with the times. And, you know, 3D printing is. For example, studded shoulder pads. I've always loved the studded shoulder pad. And for a long time, it was nigh on impossible to get your hands on a studded shoulder pad for a plastic model. There was like one shoulder pad in one kit you could get. Well, if I wanted them, I couldn't have them. Same with beakies. I really wanted to load of beaky marines, I couldn't get them. But 3D printing meant whatever I want, I can have. If I want a shed load of Mark V heads, I can get a shed load of Mark V heads. If I want optics, I can get optics. You know, that's the big one. You know, targeters on helmets. There's not so many of them. Especially with GW killing off the firstborn range as much as they are. Currently, I'm much more comfortable spending $40 on a pile of historical figures that can be a big part of an army instead of a single troop squad. Abso-bloody-lutely, Corvinus. I'm a little disappointed. Bolt Action has got a lot more expensive than it was when I first started playing, but it is still wildly cheaper than Games Workshop. But you go to someone like Artisan Miniatures, and you can buy metal hand sculpted World War II models at like £2 a model. Now, if I can get away with an army of like 20 to 40 guys, that's not a huge investment. But yeah, North Star Figures, they do some great metal models for the Second World War. They do some all sorts. Plus, you'll find that a lot of these smaller companies who hand sculpt things just have so much more character in their models. Working on an Inquisition army, nice one. I do miss the days of the Witch Hunters and Demon Hunters Codex from 4th or 5th edition. That codex was fantastic. You had lots of freedom. You could build an Inquisitor however you'd liked them to be. You could take all sorts of weird and wonderful equipment and squads. You know, you could take Sisters of Battle alongside Inquisitional Stormtroopers and all that sort of good stuff. $30k Ultras are much better. They are indeed. I prefer 30k Ultras to 40k ones. I mostly got them because I'm a huge fan of Romans. Yep, no, they're pretty cool. They're just they are portrayed so much better than just the goody boy standard Marines. Yes, 3D print is where it is. GW having problem with China factories should stay in the UK. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything that brings manufacturing back to the West, I'm fine with. Yeah, I would quite happy if all manufacturing in China was no longer available to us. I mean, it would mean a lot of stuff got very expensive, but it would balance out eventually. Maybe we'd start appreciating the price of things. My first army was Ultras because I like the books. I like the book No No Fear. It feels like everyone only reads their own lore and not understand the whole picture. Like how many Thousand Sons fans read what happened from the Wolf's point of view. Exactly, yeah. That's... yeah, it's a good point of view. I think it's good to read all the books. As many as you can get your hands on. It's such a shame that so many of them are out of production and they go for such a silly amount of money on eBay. It shouldn't be difficult for Games Workshop to have them being print on demand. You know, have them on the website. You can order it. Yes, it will take up to 128 days or 180 days, whatever they want to put it as. And that's it. You'd kill the what's it called, the scalper market overnight. You know, the more people are pushed towards eBay, the more likely they're just to go to eBay straight away and not even bother with your website. You don't want that. Yeah. I want to see some more White Scars books. I like the White Scars. But the problem is that they've painted themselves into a corner, really. They've rushed through the heresy and not really left it open for a lot more interesting engagements. Because, you know, Thousand Sons, for example, they do Prospero, and then there's not much else they really do. They do a couple of little conflicts here and there, and that's about it. You know, a long campaign against someone else would have been really cool that's not the Space Wolves. Give them some animosity towards the Blood Angels or the Ultramarines. That's what I see. Nice tips on those brushes. Yeah, these brushes are great. I use the size 2, I think it is. Oh no, size 0. It's slightly bigger than a lot of them, but the tips on them are really nice and fine. So I can still get all the detail I need. So, and they do sell them in packs of just one size if you want them. But yeah, ABC brushes. It's all I use nowadays. But if you do buy some, do say that I sent you. That'd be nice. They found demons dressing up Thousand Sons and other factors and become very understandable for what they did. Yeah. Not saying it was right, but it was understandable. The most ironic thing about the whole Thousand Sons situation is Prospero is a hop, skip and a jump from Terra. Like, it's really close. There's like no reason that Magnus shouldn't have just hopped in a cruiser and flown to Terra and gone, hey Dad, guess what Horus is doing? Like, I get he was doing it to try and prove that sorcery could be useful, but yeah, I wouldn't have risked it. It'd be like saying to your parents that it's better to send messages via rocket-propelled pigeon than just by phoning them. Still crazy to me that GW die-hard defenders justify their plastic prices when there are white metal manufacturers such better value. Yeah. It's one of my big problems with Games Workshop is that they lie. They have constantly told us that every material change has been to save us money and has always been accompanied by a price increase. Every single time. Yeah, it's not good. It'd be fine if things like the older kits came down in price as they paid off the molds. Think of like the Mars Pattern Rhino. If the Mars Pattern Rhino was £15 instead of 30, people would be buying more of them. A lot more of them. And I know that Games Workshop wants you to buy the Deimos Rhino, but let's just ignore the Deimos Rhino for a second. Let's just say it's the fucking, regular one. If I'm choosing between actually having an army with all transports or not, I'm going to say not, because the cost is too great. Maybe Rhino's a bad choice. Let's have the Chimera, for example. You've got two choices really for an Imperial Guard army, and it's tanks or infantry hordes. And 99% of people go for a tank army because it's less models and it works out cheaper. If the Chimera was £15 instead of 30-ish, then more people would run more infantry. They'd run more Iron Fist squads or Armoured Fist squads. So you'd be selling more infantry. The more you do that, the more people will then look at going, oh, I've got nearly enough infantry to just do a full infantry army. Maybe I'll just get a couple more packs. The more you make armies cheaper, the more people are likely to buy them. The more you get new models out for those factions, the more likely they are to attract new players. Sadly, Games Workshop does not take risks. A lot of neat parts out there. They're really out of Kajira. Lots of good, like 3D printed parts. Lots of good third-party parts. Yeah, I mean, you look at people like Red Warden and Logi-K and Wilf. They're putting out models that are fantastic. Faster than Games Workshop can. They can listen to feedback better than Games Workshop can. Well, that's true. If Games Workshop listened to feedback and actually operated on it, they could dominate the market even more. But for that, they'd have to start posting up works in progress pictures of their models and let us see them in advance. They don't want that. They do not want you to see their models before they're ready to release. Ooh, loud chair is loud. GW's mad that people buy proxy then go make gear in China. Hyperbolic. Yep. Yeah, I got some Flesh Eater stuff today. I haven't painted since January. It is time to get on that. Start painting, buddy. This one, it's honestly wild how crazy GW defenders don't understand how predatory their business practices are. Oh yes. They are borderline criminal in the way they act. They are very similar to drug addicts, or drug dealers, sorry. The bolt action army deals are pretty good despite going up in price, plus a playable army in one box. I just don't like the fact that some of them have hit over £100. It just feels a bit wrong to me. I really want to get the winter German one. I'd also quite like to get the Gentleman War starter set, as I have an Africa Core army already. The Oathmark fantasy range from North Star looks good. It really does, yep. A lot of the fantasy stuff that sprang up after Warhammer Fantasy died has been really good. And a lot of it has actually transitioned from being more than just proxies for Games Workshop, and a lot of them have come up with some really good fluff and actual, like, their own game, which is pretty cool. But I do like the classic Tolkien-esque fantasy. You know, I like the dwarves being dwarves, elves being elves, men being men, sort of thing. And like Age of Sigmar doesn't do it for me because they've tried to like twist it around and change it and make things different, and it just doesn't do it. It's just kind of bad for me, and I'm like, I don't like sea elves and, you know, steampunk dwarfs. Yeah, it just kind of annoys me a bit. Bolt action was the only way I could get my family into mini wargaming. I once got my little sister to play the Lord of the Rings game with me. It was when the Fellowship of the Ring box set came out, big green starter box set that had it was the Army of the Last Alliance, so it was the old Gondorian men, the High Elves, and it had a load of goblins in it for some reason. And it didn't even have orcs. Orcs weren't even a plastic thing until later, later along, which is really funny. And yeah, we decided to play that game. I took the elves and the humans, and she took the goblins, and she ended up with one goblin remaining. And simply by the luck of the dice roll, this one goblin managed to wipe out my entire army. Didn't manage to get her to keep playing tabletop games, but a few years later I did get her addicted to World of Warcraft, and she nearly got kicked out of school for the, so swings and roundabouts. She also learned how to hack into my computer just so she could play World of Warcraft, which was quite funny. I was quite proud of that. If things were made in our own country, we'd be paid enough to buy the products. Well, the thing is, if things were made in your own country, your jobs would be making more money, so they would pay you more money. Yeah, it does balance out, trust me. It only starts getting really messed up when the government gets involved. Not coming out right. That's better. Where the the oil ink like wash has gone in, it's dulled down a lot of this red far too much, so I'm just going back and making it pop in a few places. But it's a little difficult because I've obviously already done the silver chipping, so I'm having to work around that. And it's a pain in the backside. That's why I've not enjoyed this project as much. A lot of my projects are pretty easy to bulk paint, and this has been the complete opposite. 10th have closed the loop in building custom army lists a lot. It definitely feels like that. That's why I prefer 30k over 40k so much. It just feels that 40k is becoming a point where you buy the box set and that's just what you get. And I don't want that, because building an army and models is the fun part for me. And, you know, I don't like cookie cutter setups for things. I've always hated like meta stuff. I've always hated the idea that this is the best thing, you must use this, anything else is awful, don't use it. And I'm like, I want to do something that's fun. It might be less effective, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think they should just finish the Horus Heresy story, move on to another time. Feels like Games Workshop is creative. The creatives are burnt out or don't care anymore. 100%. 100%. Yeah, what you want is a new fresh start in a new time period, brand new characters, and thrash out a solid framework for a story. And if I'm going to be brutally honest, the only kind of time frame that makes sense is the Badab War. It's one we've already explored slightly, so we already have some information from it. So people can't complain that we're, you know, making things not special because we're answering all the questions, which would be things like War of the False Primarch. It's marine on marine, which means you don't have to do too many more model kits. You literally would most likely just be doing characters, which is cheaper to do and nice and easy. And rules wise, you can just do it as an expansion for Heresy, and you would then just throw in a campaign book with the character special rules in it, and anything like a single special unit or so for each faction involved. Nice and simple, really small investment from Games Workshop to begin with as a game, and then you just do the books alongside it. You know, you do 3 books for the Astral Claws, 3 books for the Mantis Warriors, 3 books for the Executioners, 3 books for each faction basically, and you get to see them, their rise and fall. You know, you get to see the fights between, you know, how Huron gets himself melted in the gut, to see how the space sharks rearrange everyone's rear ends, that sort of thing. You know, a new upscaled Tiberus the Red Wake model would sell like hotcakes. Yeah, you literally just you do a campaign book, and it says something like, oh, if your opponent agrees that you're playing a Badab War era game, the following units from the Liber, you know, whatever books, are no longer valid. You know, you can't take Primarchs. Can't take these characters. The following items are 0-1 in your army. You know, you can't take more than one, whatever, Sikaran or whatever. You know, something that is just, that should be rare. Kratos, that sort of thing. And yeah, you tie it in with Kill Team. Tie it in with Kill Team, you know, you do a Kill Team campaign book for it. But I think the smart move is going to be, or not the smart move, sorry, I think what they're going to do is probably fantasy. They'll do some fantasy books. Because of the popularity of Warhammer Fantasy through Total War, a lot of people who play the game won't want to play the tabletop game. That's just going to be a fact. But you can attract them to read the books. And that's it. That's what you want. Sorry guys, we keep trying to get this in focus and in shot and everything. I keep playing around with the way to put the camera and trying to get a good place which is natural for me to paint, but also gives you guys a good shot which can stay in focus, and it's really difficult. Do I have a Discord channel? Not personally, Daisy. I mostly hang out in the Outer Circles Discord. If you look at my community posts, the last one I think had a link to that Discord. That may still have time left on it, I'm not sure. It's definitely something that's being discussed in the background as a possibility. But it's not a priority for me at the moment. Much rather just continue focusing on making videos and, you know, getting these painting things better, because I'd rather be doing stuff like this. The Rhino's out of stock now. Okay, oops. Dedicated transport prices are also down because they're supposed to be a very basic vehicle. They are, yeah. Yeah, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah, when you've got upgrades to squads that you want to take, but it works out at such an astronomical cost, it's silly. Like, for example, the Sisters of Silence. I'd love to do a Sisters of Silence army. First of all, they've got no models. But secondly, if I want to buy transports for them, it's a single Forge World model, and it costs, I think, £70 or £80. Can't afford it, sorry. You let them take rhinos? I'll buy rhinos for the squad. But you're not going to get the 90 quid out of me, it's that simple. I've done that one. I'd love to do a Vietnam-esque guard list with Valkyries for each squad. A lot of flyers, but too much money. Yeah. But the Valkyrie is another model that has been out for a long time, that has easily paid off its mould costs, its R&D costs, its sculpting costs, and they should bring it down in price. You know, you got to remember, GW offers a 50% discount to their staff, so knocking the price down will still give them profit. You know, maybe people don't want them, maybe they'll keep buying all the new shiny stuff, fine. But there's going to be a group of people out there that don't want the new shiny stuff, that want the older stuff. Don't throw away sales. Don't push those people towards eBay. Like I said, I decided to go on eBay today and have a look at Valhallans, because I got thinking about my old Valhallan army I've got, and the price of those models on eBay now is sickening. £16 for a single las rifle guy at one point. 16 quid. That's just too much. So that army's going to stay in the display cabinet and not get any expansion whatsoever. Wouldn't have to be a remake of Bad Ab, just take that style of story and try something new. I mean, they could write their own storyline. They could do something completely brand new, but does it have the appeal? The Horus Heresy had the appeal because it was mysterious, it had some fluff, and it was something people were interested in. You know, a couple of studio guys had done some really great dioramas back in the day that sparked people's imagination. I don't know if any other era could possibly capture that. The Badab War is the easiest because it has a built-in fan base. Thanks to Forge World already doing the Badab War stuff briefly, they could quite easily capitalise on that. But they could do something like the War of the False Primarch, the Terra Nova Interregnum, the Reign of Blood, all sorts. I mean, if they really wanted to go mad for it, they could do the Fall of the Eldar. The Fall of the Eldar as a book series would be really cool, because you could start with some characters who you really like and follow them for millennia and watch how this lovely, caring, friendly person slowly devolves into a murder fucking hobo killer, until you finally realise that this wonderful person you've been following, who has been a hero all along, is like Azrael Vec. And you're like, oh, okay, so I've literally been following around BDSM Satan. Brilliant. I think that could be fun, and you could see the different, you know, you could create new craft worlds and, you know, new characters. And the best thing about the Eldar is because they're functionally immortal, you could introduce those characters into 40k at a later date. A young and impetuous Eldrad Ulthwan before he decided to join the Farseer path. You know, maybe he's an aspect warrior or something. You know, a servant of Cain. Maybe he's the bad guy and you realise that, you know, he's going to redeem himself. That'd be cool. I mean, having trouble deciding on the base for my Space Wolves of 30k. Any ideas, Bando? So the idea for basing is you want something that ties your army together, but something that doesn't drag your eye away from it. So it needs to be a more desaturated colour. So whatever it is, you want it to be a bit duller. You also want it to be a complementary colour to whatever it is you're working with. So let me grab one for an example. This guy. Pardon me. I wanted a yellowy base because yellow and blue work well together as a contrast. I desaturated it, so I've added some browns and I've, you know, used some whites to lighten it down a bit, rather than using the original yellow that I used as a base coat, which actually is the same yellow I used to paint my Imperial Fists. So it just shows you how desaturated it is. You take it down because it stops taking your eye away from things, because this is what you want to be looking at right here, and you want this colour scheme to tie things together. So you want something like a lighter colour that you can use as weathering, you know, something where the dust can help you differentiate the panels in the armour and help make things stand out. So Space Wolves, you've obviously got a nice like mid-tone grey, so you don't want to do something like an urban base because they'll just blend into the base. So I would say, I mean, the obvious one is the temple base. You know, the temple base for the Thousand Suns, the attack on Prospero. That's easy mode. You can fit into something like their Viking aesthetic, and do something like a more sort of Western Earth-like base, something with a lot of grass and mud. That could be really fun. So, you know, paint the army, paint the bases with a lot of dark browns, with some gloss varnish, make it look like it's got lots of wet mud in it, and then heavily flock it with static grass. So it looks like they're running through, you know, a nice rainy field in, you know, the south of England almost, raiding the coastland. You know, they're burning abbeys near Winchester, like Vikings. The other option is something really, really wild. You could do a Martian base with lots of crackle paint and like that nice reddy brown. Trying to think what else would be really good for them. That's all I can really think of, if off the top of my head. I think something like a nice muddy and grassy European-esque style Earth base could work really, really well. On the flip side, obviously, you could do urban, but paint it a different colour. Don't use greys. You know, make it so that it's all out of like a coral pink, for example, would work, because it would take a nice contrast against the grey. So paint some swatches of colour next to the grey and see what really kind of helps underline it. Saga looks neat too. Age of Magic game like Skirmish, Warhammer Fantasy, but Vikings. Yeah, Saga's great. Really nice models for Saga as well. They can be a little pricey, but the player base is really passionate for Saga as well. What's your take on Money Wargaming Dave's new game coming out? I have only heard good things, but I've never played it, so I don't want to get lost in the hype. Well, the problem with that is that my housemate works for Mini Wargaming. So, I've not seen too much about his game. I'm sure it's going to be fine. If I remember correctly, a lot of his models are basically just GW rip-offs. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll take a look at it. I'll see what they look like. I have my own issues with Mini Wargaming Dave. I don't think he's a great role model for the community. But anyone that's putting out new content, anyone that's putting out new games is already in a good place for me. So I think we have to suck it and see. And only time will tell if that game's any good. But if you want it, if you like the look of it, go for it. I want to know who at a meeting sat down for redesigning High Elves and thought, yes, they need cows. Yeah, exactly. You look at Karl Kopinski's art from the High Elf books, and why they didn't just go, okay, how do we make these guys taller, thinner, and more elf-like? Instead of being like, hey, how do we make these guys have hands the size of their heads? Speaking of Lord of the Rings, I bought myself Easterlings because I think they look neat. They do look neat. I don't like Age of Sigmar because of the tone. It feels nothing like fantasy and just look at the Stormcast Eternal. They all golden and clean. All the wood needs to switch now into dirty silver. Yeah. For me personally, like for the Stormcast Eternals, it's what I would do is like, yeah, they're immortal, but they're not invulnerable. So each time they die, a bit of them is left behind. You know, that hole that's punched in their chest by the orc spear, it's still there. It just doesn't kill them. You know, they lose an arm, they can still move the armor, but there's no arm inside it. And eventually these guys get to a point where there's nothing left in that armor, but they're still tied to it and they're still feeling all of that pain. That's grimdark. But yeah, at the moment the tone just feels too much like 40k. Oh, we're going off on crusades and we've got our chaplains on dragons, and oh, we whip our slaves to carry our giant cathedral boats around on land. And it's like, yeah, this is just 40k, but with less bullets. So, I'm not a fan. I'm finding new players are not kit bashing or mixing their own paint. No, they're not. But GW doesn't want that. GW would be much happier if people never created their own chapters and only painted things that they told them to paint. They'd be much, much happier. I bet there's like a whole thing at GW when their authors come in with like their books and they've written like a new chapter in somewhere and they're like rolling their eyes. You know, even it's like a throwaway line where it's like, oh yes, and he was flanked by 2 Marines of the Star Ravens, and you're like, oh fuck. Alright, now we're gonna have to figure out the colour scheme for the Star Ravens, and we're gonna have to put that in a book somewhere as a throwaway, and come on, tell us what you imagine they look like so we can do a White Dwarf article with a single Star Raven model painted in it. Because we know that those autists out there are going to absolutely latch on to that one single line you've written about them, and suddenly everyone's going to be pestering our customer service team. Can we get a video on why you dislike Mini Wargaming, Dave? No. No, that I won't make a video that's just like a personal attack. That's... If he does something that deserves it, I will make a video addressing that. But as it is, no, I won't go out that way. That's a bit too harsh. I just don't think he's a great role model, personally. Great Bando, now I want to do a Caradon's kill team. It's so much easier to say Space Sharks. But do it, go for it. I want to do one. There was an artist called Arian the Faithful who was back on DeviantArt back in the day, and he did a load of artwork using like felt tip pens. He had a very identifiable style. It was very blocky and cartoonish. You'd recognise the style the moment you saw it. And he did some fantastic Carcharodon models or artwork pieces. One of them was like a librarian, or more like a Stormseer kind of thing, with long white hair. And the other one was a bunch of Carcharodons like coming out of the water, and they had like fins on the top of their helmets, and they were like halfway up to their respirators and stuff, and it just looked really cool. And I'd love to do that. I'd love to do a small unit of them kind of coming out of the water at different levels and just like blend them into their bases. I just think that would look really, really cool. But I'm not a big fan of the Carcharodons because I don't like where they've kind of taken them in their fluff. I don't like that they've become so brutal, and I don't know, it's just become a bit too edgy for my liking. It's hard to explain. Like, we don't need every single chapter to be the coolest ever. I hate the heavy metal paint style. They kill a lot of players' armies with white lines on every minute. Yeah. For me, I like to do a more grimy style of painting. Even when painting like clean models, like that's probably more or less the cleanest Space Marine style highlights I've ever done. And even that I wasn't particularly fond of, so I made it a bit dirtier. Still very fond of his face though, it was very well done for me, I like that. you want to get into Bad War. The Discord server is a bit dead, but they got a lot of good inspiration and people in it. Also, Tortuga Bay miniatures. I'm on the Bad War Discord, and my models are. I think the last models posted in the work in progress thread on that Discord. I'm already there, buddy. I made a resized Tabor in the red. Is the right? Hang on. I made a resized Tabor. Is the red right model? That's the size of a dreadnought for a video. I'm not sure what you mean there, buddy. If you can reword that and send it again, I'll try and answer that. Upgrade frames would be nice. I think upgrade frames for chapters is 100% needed. I hope that's something they're doing for the Chaos Marines in the future. It appears to be what they're doing through Kill Team. But yeah, that's definitely something we need for like 30k. Like they've got them, they've had them for a while. We've had the Primaris ones. They just need them to be better. Like the Black Templar one, get one out for each of the first founding chapters that's in 40k. Give us an Ultramarines one, give us a White Scars one, a Salamanders one. They'll sell. They will sell, I guarantee it. And do them for Chaos as well. Do a World Eaters one, with extra heads and, arms and shoulder pads and stuff. Do a Death Guard one. Do a Thousand Suns one. Do one for the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, the Word Bearers. Do those guys first, and they will sell. I guarantee you. Like you do a good Black Templars style upgrade set for all those chapters, and they'll sell. I picked up maybe a dozen of the Ultramarine one, both the Primaris and the Firstborn one, because I needed Gladiuses. I needed Gladiuses for all my Argonaut themed Ultramarines, and that was it. I needed them, so I picked them up. They have loads of shoulder pads in there, and I just went ham, Did you see the new FEC guy, Bando? I'm hyped to see what they do to the range. FEC. Oh, is that Flesh Eater's Court? Yes, the flying guy. The copyright named Grim Copyright, yes. I like it apart from his necklace. I like that they're definitely moving the fluff more into them being Bretonians again. That's interesting. I like it. I don't like the necklace, but it looks like it'd be a part you could leave off easily. I have painted Flesh Eater Courts before. It would definitely be something I'd like to pick up and paint as well. So yeah, the Valkyrie is a really fun kit too. Unfortunately, I've never had one. I've always wanted one. I've just never had a chance to buy one. It used to be a Forge World only kit, and it was very expensive. The Sisters of Silence transport looks amazing, but almost every review I've seen of it looks like they're all messed up in some way. If I can find an STR, I'd be so happy. Yeah, it looks interesting as its own thing, but not as a transport. I'd like it to be more of an equivalent to like a Land Raider, where it's something nasty coming towards you, but it also kind of just looks like Tim Burton designed a butt plug. Sabbat Worlds, pre or post Macaris is an option. I mean, yeah, you could do the first Sabbat War. That would be a really good one. The second Sabbat War Crusade would be really good as well. Obviously, you've got Gaunt. You could just do Gaunt and his command staff as one box. You could do a Ghosts, 10-man squad, Rifleman section, a special weapons team, and a heavy weapons team. Very easily, and a lot of those would sell a lot. You could do the Salamander Scout vehicle, because they use those a lot. That would sell. Bring back the Laser Destroyer, Grey Vengeance. They would sell. Then Blood Pack, you know, you get a box of 20 Blood Pack guys with loads of different head options. Actually, the best thing to do would be to do Traitor Guard and then do an upgrade kit that is either the head is basically the Sons of Sec or Blood Pack. Maybe the shoulder pads are separate for them, so you can do some more details there. And then you could even do like kill teams for that with different regiments: the Vatrian Dragoons, the Janissaries. I can't remember the name of them. All the different groups like that. The Fantine Regiment. They'd be brilliant. I mean, I would love it. I would absolutely love it if it got support. But I don't see it happening. They can't do Fall of the Eldar because that would mean expanding, updating the rest of the Eldar range. Shit. You're right. War in Heaven would be cool. Now, War in Heaven is another game I think they should do. But I honestly believe the War in Heaven would actually be better suited as some sort of, like, galaxy-spanning board game. I don't think as a miniature game it would work. If you're going to do War in Heaven as a miniature game, it would need to be epic scaled, in my opinion. Same with Unification War. That's another game to do in the scale of epic. I'd love to see the War of the False Prime up to get some more lore. However, I'm not confident in GW's ability to craft something without retcons. 100%. Yep. A lot of this is very much dependent on if they get good writers. And good writers are hard to come by. Especially in Games Workshop, where people are afraid to push back against management. I don't know if anyone's played the Dark Souls games. I have. I suck at them. I can't get past the first boss in Dark Souls 3, so I stopped playing. But it's weird that I picture Terra looking a lot like Anor Londo. Could be, yeah. I think, you know, Terra is going to be one of those places that's just a solid city, and it's just going to be Coruscant, but you know, crack house Coruscant. Age of Apostasy good as an interesting setting. They could expand some of the Inquisition ranges. I mean, what you could do is the Age of Apostasy and focus it as an expansion to like Kill Team, so it's smaller stuff. That could be really fun. Lots of small sets, lots of smaller rules. Can we get a video on why you decided? I've already done that one. GW should be all for kit bashing and converting, buy a whole kit just to use one or two bits, yeah. And this is it, this is the argument. I am more likely to buy stuff if I have inspiration to build armies. I read the White Dwarf with the Relictors in it, and that caused me to start a whole new army. I didn't just buy Space Marines, I bought Chaos Space Marines, and I bought bits, and I was kit bashing everything together. You don't do that nowadays, because the model kits are designed not to go together in different, like with different kits. That's why Heresy's better. I can kit bash all of these models with something else if I want to. Guess what I'm going to do with my Night Lords? I intend to buy some classic Chaos Terminators to turn into some Cataphracti Terminators. Because I prefer the bodies. I think they look better. For my Night Lords, that is. On that artwork about the Mantis Warrior about to fight Tiberius, someone pointed out that Tiberius was only using one claw due to the Mantis Warrior only having one arm. Yeah, the funny thing about that is, when Tiberius was mentioned in his first appearance, he was described as being small. He was being described as being like average to small height for a Marine, and it's only like after that, like follow-up things, he was described as being this absolute titan of a man because of that piece of artwork. The original guy who created Tiberius wanted him just to be average. He was sick and tired that every single Marine character was some giant in power armor. Hello, my friendly local gaming shop has some really good deals on a few of the Warlord games, Specialist Reigns, Victory at Sea, Blood Red Sky, etc. Got any experience, thoughts on any of those? Quite undecided. A lot of them are really good games. Warlord has a habit of saturating the market with games, but when they get one that's popular, they do support it. If you like things like, you know, naval combat, those games are really fun, but you will have to work hard to convince 40k players to buy into them. Bolt action is going to be the easiest one for you to get other people to get into, because you basically go, it's 40k 3rd edition with more tanks. Personally, I don't like them because I don't like the scale, but I think the models are fine for them, for what they are, for the scale they are. The value's not too bad on them either, so give them a go, try them out. A couple of their games seem a bit weird. They're not so like interesting to me, like Warlords for Elware. A lot of their games seem like they're just kind of there to consolidate model lines. They've been trying to get rid of the Terminator game for nearly a decade. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like how Dave is always super positive. Like, I'm friends with people who play tabletop and they're always happy, and then it's bad. They say it's still Warhammer. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like the Firstborn upgrade blisters, quite a bit for 30k. My Dark Angels and Ultramarines have 1 or 2 of them mixed in for flavour. Yeah, they're really good. There are bits you can't use, obviously, but there are lots of bits you can use. Even the Primaris ones aren't horrendous. The Primaris ones are actually pretty... The Raven Guard one's pretty good. The Iron Hand one's the worst. The real disappointing thing is the Iron Hands one should have had way more bionics in it. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. The chapter madre? The chapter mother? Si, un chapter madre. Of the Space Sharks, I remade him to the right side. Yeah, it's okay, buddy. Don't worry about it. We're all a little bit speckle here. My Master of Signals using the Ultramarine shoulder, sword, and chest plate is one of my favourite kit bashes. Hey, babe, I love kit bashes. I have lots and lots of them, and I will continue to do it. But like this guy is a Raven Guard Dark Fury with his leg reposed, but his shoulder pads they're both from, I think, the Primaris or even the Firstborn kit. So yeah, they fit. You just throw them on. This guy's getting scrapped. I'm not a fan of him. I say scrapped. He's going to get like reused somewhere. The Terminators, like, I've bought nearly every single Terminator kit out there while I was making my Imperial Fists, and I have kit bashed bits from all of them together. I can send the video over if you want to see it. Hey, yeah, send it over. But ping it to me on a comment somewhere, and I'll watch it. The necklace is supposed to be a rough, like Shakespeare has made of ribs. Yeah, I understand what they've done for that model. I just don't like the look of it. I don't like roughs in general. I think they look stupid. Hot take, I like the CLs in Age of Sigmar. I don't mind them as their own faction. They look very weird, but they needed something interesting. Make them the bad guys. You know, they come out of the sea and they drag people off and they're slavers or whatever. You know, that'd be more interesting. Why does everyone hate the elves? Well, because the elves don't have eyes and they come out of the dark and the waves and carry off children into the night. You know, that's cool. Sisters players would buy up Alicia Dominica as a model. Sisters players would pick up anything if it was new for them. I wish Conflict 47 was more popular. Love the sculpts. Currently repainting my knights. 30k. Conflict 47 is a really weird one. I love the idea of the war continuing as a setting. I'm not a big fan of weird war. And that's all anyone ever seems to do for the Second World War continuing is weird war. I get it, but you know, oh look, suddenly we've got Nazi walking tanks and Japanese teleport guys and werewolves and bears and zombies and JTFM Die Waffenkammer does a series called, I think, What If 45 or something, where basically all he's done is he's made models for all of what were called the paper tigers or the paper panzers. These were all prototype tanks from the Germans that either were never produced or they only ever made like one prototype. Things like the Mouse, they only made 2 or 3 prototypes. Only one of them ever ran. But he makes them, and he does that. And the idea is, what happens if the war actually had continued? They could have made these things. That I like. And that's actually the setting of one of my books, is what if the war had continued like that. It's not weird, it's not special, no one's got laser beams or anything like that. It's all just, the war is kept going, what happens? Well, the answer is lots of people die. If I did Night Lords, Gendor's Force at the Siege, I'd love to get the White Scars Primaris blister for that arm holding the skulls. Yeah, exactly, that's a good one. What you can do with that nowadays is trim down the very Primaris looking wrist panels on that and cover them up with the new Mark III van braces. Hey Bando, sorry I missed the beginnings. Mike, not a problem at all, buddy. That's, you can always watch them from the beginning, or you come in late. It's not a big deal, buddy. It's cool. I won't be going on for much longer though, maybe another 10 minutes or so. I once did a 3D render of a Panzer III Rhinoceros. Okay, that's cool. The E79 Panther III Rhinoceros, the Nash one. I hate GW's take on CSM. Feels like only chaos, no renegade forces. All chaos only feels like for the big legions, but the smaller bands were kind of cool. Yes, 100%. That is something I like about chaos, is the more renegade look. The idea that these guys are not demonic, twisted monsters, that they are just ancient warriors. It's like this, with his armour all twisted and tongues coming out of things and horns growing out and spines and that sort of thing. For some legions that works really, really well. I get it. But at the end of the day, I prefer my guys to be looking like they're actually still somewhat related to who they are. These guys are Space Marines still. There is still technically a man inside this suit of armour. And oh, his arm's fallen off, that's no good. While he might be 10,000 years old and very horrible, he's still a person inside. I need to get these guys finished so I can get them primed and started. And that's what I liked about when I did my Iron Warriors, was I was definitely moving them to be more renegade than anything else. I'd trim back the trim, I would make it so that they didn't have so much demonic look about them. Horns were removed. The only things I had that were really chaotic was just, I think I had 2 obliterators. My plan originally was 9 obliterators, because you could have 1 per heavy support slot, and at the time you could trade your fast attack slots for heavy support slots in that codex, and it meant you could take like 9 obliterators, and I was like, yo, that's cheeky, I'll do that. The main thing that stopped me from doing a Night Lord's force is I don't know how to convert Gendor, because I want to recreate the art of his fight with Raldoron. Right, well, the best thing to do there, Spooky, is to get yourself onto Cults 3D and to search up Logik, which is Loggyk, and he has both proxies for Raldoron and Gendor in the poses of that fight. They are, if I remember, about €6 each, and obviously you can then get those printed by someone or print them yourself. Have you ever modded a Chaos Marine to look like a Loyalist? I saw someone had modelled an Abaddon figure to make a bigger Terminator Loyalist. Looks very difficult. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. Let's take one of these guys for example. Functionally, if I painted this guy up as a Imperial Fist, if I just swapped out the head, there would be, like the backpack, there'd be very little difference. The trim here, you just need to remove the spikes, basically. So you come in this way, you cut in, and then you slide down and it just pops off. You leave the trim on. The trim is absolutely fine. You know, you don't use pads like this with more trim on it. This had to be sanded down to get rid of a lot of the trim. You'd have to hide the belt buckle. That wouldn't be too difficult. But converting these guys to be Loyalists can be done. Especially for someone like, I don't know, Dark Angels, it would work well because they've got more archaic armour. But any kind of teeth bits you'd want to remove, it can be done. Would it be worth it? Probably not. A lot of the Loyalist models are just better for that purpose. Like this guy's going to be difficult because you've got so much to remove. It's just not going to be worth it. The ones that could be done are the Khorne Berserkers. They actually have a lot less stuff to remove. A lot of it is like a flat, you know, a knee pad or something will have the Khorne symbol on. You can just slice it straight off. Not many deals on eBay now. It seems a bit depressing. eBay has been terrible for years. Back in the day, you could find a deal. You know, you'd have someone's mum sticking up their Warhammer collection because they don't want it anymore. They don't know what they've got, so they just throw it up for 20 quid trying to make some money back. They think that's, you know, a lot of money to get back for it. And you're like, oh, that's 300 quid's worth of models. Yeah, I'll take that. It just doesn't happen anymore. There's too many people on there who know what things are worth, and there's too much stuff on there in general, so people are all going, oh, that I should put that up for the same amount of money. There's lots of people putting stuff up there that's painted, thinking just because it's painted it's worth a fortune. It's not. Some people will say that, oh, painted models are worth more. They're absolutely not. Unless you are someone who's painted something to a point where it's good quality, or at least tabletop quality, and there's enough stuff there for a decent, like, core of an army, selling painted models is not worth the money people ask for them. There are people who do, who can do it, you know. Some people can paint really, really well, and that's how they make their money. They stick it on eBay, and good to them, but that's just commission painting with extra steps. The Ferdinand was the perfect tank, no other was needed. The engine even caught fire to keep you warm in the winter. You know, that's that Voice Deutsch Technik right there. Just spent 4 hours sculpting right pauldrons for my Grey Knights. I did all the engraving, baked it, compared it to the left one, and it looked like shit. Good, time to sleep. Oh yeah, Joseph, that's not good. Not good at all. I'd love to do some Grey Knights. I'd love to do some Grey Knight Terminators. I really would, but the models are old now, and I just can't bring myself to do it. That image of the Grey Knight charging the demon, where he's holding his pike behind him, like racing towards. I love that. I wish those Terminators were as dynamic as that. I really do. Point of Chaos is they all look different. Now they all look like word bearers. Even the Black Legion look boring because they're supposed to look renegade and not any chaos. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Hopefully we're getting Emperor's Children at the end of this edition, and things should look a bit more interesting for them. But we do need something to make Night Lords and Iron Warriors stand out. Yeah, everything being saying they're pro-painted on eBay is terrible. If I ever sell anything on eBay that's painted, I'm going to put amateur painting on there, not pro-painting. Facebook Marketplace is a good place to look, but only for certain things. I can't find armatures at a decent price at all. Facebook sales groups. It's the only reason I'm still on Facebook. Sometimes someone will sell something. I got a bunch of tanks recently. 2 Vindicators and a Rhino at 15 quid each. And you go, okay, I'll take all those. Would you do 40 plus shipping? Yeah, that's fine. Alright, cool. You've saved yourself like a £5 already. Yeah, you've got to strip it, but that's the kind of thing you want. It's also the only pages on Facebook I've got set for notifications is the Heresy Trading ones. Because before 2nd edition came out, if a Heresy kit went up for sale on those pages, it was sold before you even knew it was there. In my experience, the good deals are usually sold within minutes. Those on eBay and similar now are usually just overpriced. You can still find the odd good thing on there, but it is very hard to find. I ran into this problem before I found my Astra Moloch. Everyone on eBay was only selling it with a huge, poorly painted army. Yeah. Hey Explore, how you doing? Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. It is. Bando, mate, your painting is really good, but I love the humility of an amateur painting. Oh man, there was a comment on one of, I think, the last live stream that has been a bit of a chuckle between me and my friends, and I'll paraphrase it, and I won't say who posted it. I'm sure you can find it. And it said something along the lines of, "Oh, I really appreciate that you're like an amateur painter or an average painter. Everyone we see on YouTube's like really pro amazing painting, and it's nice to see what an average person can paint." And I was just like, I get where you're coming from. I understand this is like not an insult. Like, you do mean this is a nice comment. I know what you mean. But it was like, kind of like, oh, okay, fuck me out, right? And, you know, I get it. No, I appreciate it. I you know, okay, yeah, fine. You know, I'll help anyone reach the level I paint. I'm not a golden demon winner. I don't pretend to be. And it was just funny the way it came across. It's like I had to read it 2 or 3 times to go like, wait a second, this motherfucker. No, I'm a passable painter. I have won 1 painting competition in my life, and my problem is that I can't finish anything at the moment. I'd like to try and finish some stuff, but I'm just losing the interest to do it. Which is what this stream is here to try and do, is to try and get me to finish this stuff. So I'm really going to have to try and push my way through it. I might just have to kind of call it quits and just do the bases, paint the grenades, and just be like, bam, done. Better to have a full army painted than agonise over every figure. That's my approach. I get that, I do. I can appreciate that. You know, if you are a gamer, if you play the game a lot, that should be your focus 100%. Get the army painted, get the army finished to a gaming level. I'm not a gamer, I don't pretend to be. I am a collector, I'm a builder, I'm a painter. So, for me, I want to make sure that the models I'm painting are painted well, but I want to finish them. Which is why I don't spend time painting like heavy metal style, and it's why I like to paint in my very messy, grimdark style, because I can get this army finished by doing that. I'm struggling with these guys because, like, for example, my Sons of Horus, the painting method for these guys is 3 layers of green. It's Cabalite green all over. Then 45 degrees I do Sybarite green, like this. and then 45 degrees or maybe a bit more, it's Gorse Blaster again. Let that dry. Gorse Blaster on a sponge. Bam, 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 bam. Word Bearer red. Pick out some of the chips where the larger white dots are, or the light dots are. Paint the gold. Add some details. Paint the blacks. Gloss varnish. Oil wash. Pick out the reds again to make them pop a bit more. Pick out the leathers and the silvers. Eyes, done. And it's quick, relatively speaking. These guys, it's black, and then lots of little red details. Sponge on the silver, oil wash, and now I've got to go back through all of these details and make them stand out a bit. And it's just slow. I could have just done black, one shoulder pad, and we're done here. If I was painting these guys just the regular, like, Blood Angels red, this army would have been finished by now. Like, really quickly. And part of me is tempted to do that. Like, these will be my Death Company guys. Anything going forward is going to be just done in red. But I'm not sure if I want to do that. I remember seeing that comment and thinking it came across as a bit of a dick. Just to put it out there, I don't mind that comment. I appreciate that comment. Don't go and look for that comment or anything like that. I like that comment. Okay, I get that is a compliment, what he said, and I get it and I appreciate it. I just think it was really funny. Unpopular opinion, I'm not a big fan of heavy metal style. It's kind of overrated. Painting skills have moved on from the early 90s. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think that's a very common opinion. I think the heavy metal style of painting is done to be achievable. It's done to be very simple steps that are very easy to replicate and follow. You know, if your average Duncan Rhodes video for your 12-year-old kids was, okay, now grab your Corax white and we're going to do, you know, a glaze, and we're going to do feathering, we're going to need 2 brushes, here's 2 brush blending, oh, we're going to need to mix in some glaze medium, now you're going to need to get some methylated spirit thinners because we're going to work with enamels on this next model. I the 12-year-olds are going to start crying. You know, that's why Games Workshop doesn't have tutorials that are like, now grab your airbrush, because they can't. They have to do it as simple as possible for their users. At least you're not painting white. Do paint white. I paint white quite a lot, actually. I actually enjoy painting white. White is one of the colours I enjoy the most. What white is a good white? I believe the universal consensus is that Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White is the best white on the market. However, Vallejo's Off-White, Vallejo Game Colour Off-White, in my opinion, is the best colour to paint white with. And then you can use something like the Pro Acryl as your highlight colour. If you're doing a cold one, then yeah, something like Celestra Grey, Ulthuan Grey, and then white. If I'm painting white by hand, Ulthuan Grey is my go-to as a base coat. It's also different for me. I am mostly painting ranked up historical figures. The details are less important than miniatures and are meant to look good as a group. Yes, so something like that, you want your bold colours to be bold and bright, you know. If I'm doing the Peninsula campaign, for example, I want the red of my British troops to be nice and bright. The greys to be grey, you know. I don't need the faces to look great. The front rank are going to get their faces painted. Everyone else is going to get a single coat of skin tone and then probably an Agrax wash afterwards. But the front rank I'll make look good. Cavalry, again, I might make them look good. Characters, I'd spend time on. But yeah, if you're doing rank and file stuff like that, you really don't need to go crazy on it. I had to get those colours in my repertoire. Check out the new Army Painter paints. if you guys are looking at new stuff, I'm hearing crazy good things about those. These TT Combat paints are great. I love those. Can't fault those. The white's really nice in that as well. Yeah, the new Army Painter stuff is supposed to be phenomenal. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm really hoping that I will have a chance to get my hands on them this weekend. I'll be going over to Reading Warfare, which is a smaller trade and like wargaming show here in the UK, in Farnborough. So I'll be visiting that this weekend, hopefully. Trying to convince some friends to go so I don't have to get the train on my own. Yes, this is me playing with a knife just off camera. Because I fidget. Yeah, so I'm hoping I can get my hands on the new Army Painter paints. The problem is that I've seen that they are releasing 2 paint sets, and one of them is nearly £600. Now, I'd love to buy a £600 paint set with every single paint they're doing, but I can't afford to buy like 280 paints in one go. Yep, Vallejo's Glacier Blue is really good. Any light, so you've got 2 options. You have warm and cold blues. Cold blues are really easy because you work off a nice blue grey. Warm whites are a bit harder because you have to work up from like a skin tone or a bone colour. In my opinion, White Scars should be done off a warm white, and World Eater should be done off a cold white. I think it makes them look distinct, and I think it makes them look more interesting. The reason is that White Scars, you have the red. The red works better with the off-white, with being warm, but also it works in the sense that it looks like it looks like dirt. It looks like they would be in the saddle, that it's ingrained into them almost. Whereas the cold white works really well with the blue of the World Eaters, and then contrasts really nicely with the blood splatters. £600? What? It's like a 285 paint set, Havoc, at like £2.80 a paint. It's a box that's like this fucking big, mate. It's every paint they do. What do I do to extend the shelf life for your paints? Don't they all go out of date, expire once they're opened? Technically, yes. I use them before they run out, is my main answer. I have some foundation paints in here, which came out around 5th edition, and those are the ones that didn't have enough preservative in them, so I'm not opening them because they stink. So what do? Store them upside down. Take your paint, instead of storing it like this, store it like this. Helps create a seal, means the air can't get in very well. Make sure they are cranked down nice and tight, but not too tight, which is really good about these ones. You can't do that. Every now and then, just give all your paints a good shake. Just properly go and just shake them like a baby that won't stop screaming. You had trouble with Corax White. The trouble you had there is that it's Corax White, which is widely regarded to be the worst white paint in existence. If you're going to put mixing balls in, make sure you pick up glass mixing balls. The problem with the metal mixing balls is that they were often marketed as stainless steel, and quite regularly they were not stainless steel, so they will rust and they will ruin your paints. Yeah, make sure you use glass ones. Yes, Havoc, it's a giant paint range. I'm hoping they release like a starter set that's only sort of £20-25, like the TT Combat one I got, because that gives me a nice selection to play with and just figure them out. Hi Bryce, how you doing? Everything's okay with me. I'm probably going to be packing up soon, unfortunately, but feel free to go back and watch this. I have a pot of bolt gun metal that still works. Lead belt to replace it. Bolt gun metal was fantastic. The classic bolt gun metal and mithril silvers were amazing. Loved them. Absolutely loved them. The ones, the paints I missed the most, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, paints I missed the most are the original GW inks in the hexagon pots with the white tops. Not the screw top ones, the flip top ones that looked a bit like this. Those inks were fantastic. And Necron Abyss, one of the foundation paints. Necron Abyss was this beautiful, almost black blue that was lovely, and it covered so well. Hi, Idaho. These are Blood Angels. They're 30k Blood Angels, but painted up as Death Company. Oh, am I interested in the TT Combat game set in Venice? I saw some people talking about it. I'm gonna have to a look at it, see what I can see. The model count seems nice and low. It depends on what the price is. Like, I've not seen anything. I've seen like 2 or 3 bits of it. I know some of the guys in the Outer Circle Discord were talking about it. It might be fun. It could be really fun. I like TT Combat. They're a good company. Whether I'll play it, I doubt it. I don't paint a lot. Sorry, paint a lot. I don't play a lot. But if my local club start playing it and they say it's fun, I might give it a go. I still have some of those old Forge World paints around. The only stuff like that I've got is I've got a single pot of Forge World weathering powder around here somewhere. Which is rather annoying because it's nearly run out. And while I've got the Vallejo Rust one, it doesn't quite match. It's not bright enough. It's not like orangey red enough. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'll give it a go. I'll have a look at the models, see what I can see. Still got the flesh wash and the bronzed. I threatened to paint a Space Marine with bronzed flesh when I worked at Games Workshop, because I like bronze flesh, and there's a couple of secrets of painting with it. My manager at Games Workshop hated it and threatened to fire me if I painted a model using it. Got the Carnival starter set for about £30. Cardboard terrain's nice enough. The models are good. I'll have to take a look at it. What are my thoughts on Warhammer Legends? Not entirely sure, because I don't actually know what that is. Do you mean like Legends as in the rules for Legend stuff where they say you can still use it? Because I'm okay with that. I'd rather they just didn't remove stuff from any of the games. I've been playing that God tier game that feels very fun. Most of the game I played has come down to a single dice roll. That's good. That's always good. It's the most important thing about any tabletop game is it's fun. If it's not fun, there's no point playing it. I tried to do. So my housemate and I met at university. We were both studying video games design. He loves Magic. He loves Vampire the Masquerade is like his jam. And he's always coming up with these intricate magic systems for games. And we're sat there in a bar one evening chatting about this, and he's explaining this really complicated magic system. And I'm like, cool. How do you play with that on an Xbox controller? He's like, what do you mean? Well, I'm like, you've described having to write down these different symbols and act in a certain way and do all this. How do I do that when I've got limited 4 buttons? And it's like, oh, I don't know, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, it's not fun. The whole system you've designed sounds great, but it's not fun. If I'm playing a magic caster in a video game and I've got a spell to do a fireball, at most I want to have to hold down 2 buttons. And then I want to let go of them, and I want to see some goblin evaporate in front of me. Spooky, go for it, mate. Send them over. I'm interested to see it. Is the old GW inks Winsor & Newton drawing inks 8 colours in 40ml bottles? Oh, that's cool. I have to check that out. Your old manager sounds like she was... Oh, go away, Windows Defender. Your old manager sounds like she was a bit of a tyrant. Did that happen a lot with managers in the past? Yes. Old GW managers are known for having egos bigger than titans. And my manager was no different. He was also incredibly creepy and dated a very young girl who came into our store as a regular. The age difference was noticeable. VTM is a great game, mind you. I'm in a LARP for it, so of course I'd say that. Do you know what? I don't know how I feel about LARP. I like the idea of LARP because I like roleplay. I did drama at school. I love the idea of playing a character. I'm a big, loud person. I watch these things and it's all good until you camera pans out and you realise it's 40 people stood in a field in a line, and then they run at each other and they just start like shouting elemental damage, crushing damage, and I'm like, what the absolute shit. I don't want to get hit with a foam sword while some 12-pound fucking girl is screaming fireball at me and stuff. No, it's not going to happen. I used to have a friend I played online with from Poland. They did a LARP out there where they used real swords. They just doled them down. It was a bunch of Hema historical martial arts guys doing LARP. And he told me that one time he got a phone call, hey, the guys who are supposed to be playing our bad guys have flaked out on us, can you and your boys come along and do it? So they turned up dressed as Cossacks. He shaved his great big bushy beard out until he had the long droopy moustache. He shaved his long hair off so he just had a forelock coming down. And they brought horses. And they rode horses around the woods terrorising people. Some guy comes running at them in full plate mail. He hits him at full speed with a sword. He doesn't hold back. He just wallops the guy. And it was like, yeah, your character is as tough as you are. They kidnapped a girl, a wizard, literally threw her over the horse and ran away with her. One game they played goblins. They kidnapped someone and tied them up by their feet and were threatening to cook them. That sounds great. That LARP sounds fantastic. Running at someone with a foam sword going 1d6, 1d6, 1d6. I have no interest in doing any of that. I did a LARP airsoft game once where we were doing it was a 90s themed Gulf War fictional country, and we got caught by the enemy, and we managed to bluff our way out of it by explaining that we were actually on the Israeli side of the border with their country. We weren't in their country. They eventually left, and I looked at my team leader, pulled out the map, and explained to him that theoretically the Israeli border was 3,000 miles in a different direction to where we were. I also got tortured that weekend. That was rather interesting. Yeah, that was good. That was good, but that was just like an airsoft game with extra stuff. I never played Vampire Masquerade's Bloodlines. I wanted to because it used the Half-Life 2 engine, and it came out just before Half-Life 2, but I never got around to doing it. I'd love to do reenactments for War of the Roses or something like that. They look great fun. There's plenty of groups around that do it. I don't know which country you're in, Spooky. I know in the UK here we have groups like the Sealed Knot who do a lot of stuff like that. A couple of my friends do a lot of that. They also do a lot of English Civil War stuff. Living History, my uncle does Living History, the one who's very, very ill. He does American Civil War reenactment, which is weird to find that have a huge American Civil War scene in the Midlands in the UK. Just really weird. The Vampire the Masquerade LARP I'm doing isn't hitting people with weapons. It's mostly based around political intrigue. The combat is mostly based around rock, paper, scissors. Never physical contact. As long as it doesn't turn into erotic roleplay Bryce, I'm sure it's absolutely fine. We used to have loads of LARP guys come into my shop for a few years ago. Yeah, so I used to work for an airsoft shop that also sold LARP gear, and the LARP customers were always, you could spot them a mile away. They were very, they were a definite sort. But it was always quite funny to see the girls coming in and trying to buy corsets, and you're like, maybe try the next one up in size, darling. Although we used to have a shop boy, young guy, really young, 16 years old or something, like first job, only allowed to work like 4 hours a week or something under the UK law. Oh my god, did he get bullied? Like mercilessly bullied. And one day he comes walking out of this cupboard and doesn't realise that one of the guys is there with this giant LARP mallet, like two-handed mallet with about a 7-foot long handle. So he comes walking out, and the next thing he sees is this thing flying towards him at speed, and it just sent him straight back into the stock cupboard. Oh, the funniest story I have of that was I was talking to the owner and saying how about, how he bullies the shop boy, and he's like, I don't bully the shop boy. Oi, get out here! The guy walks out without looking. He throws a roll of duct tape at him and clocks him in the bollocks. It was very funny if you were there and if you weren't that kid. They played Anglo-Saxons versus Vikings, and I'd won them up by telling the history of the battle. The Anglo-Saxons win. Yeah. I love that episode of South Park where Cartman decides that actually he's going to win the American Civil War reenactment, and does a whole campaign across America to win the Civil War as the South. Reenactment gone wrong is brilliant. Right, that's been 2 hours, guys. I'm going to have to call it there because I do have to go to bed, unfortunately. Thank you very much for coming to watch and all the comments. I think this is probably the most comments we've ever had on one of these, so I really appreciate it. If you guys want to send me some stuff about that Carnival game, just throw a comment, or if you're on Discord, just drop me a message. Thank you very much for coming along, guys. As always, I really appreciate it. Don't forget, like, subscribe, all the YouTuber crap. Work on your stuff. Get through your backlog, guys. Get out there, do something different tomorrow, and you have a great Friday. It is Friday tomorrow. Yes, it is Friday tomorrow. Good. Yeah, have a good Friday. Those of you who are, just starting your day because of time zones, I do apologise. I'm sorry that you've now got to get on the whole day without me, but I'm still here tomorrow. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you all coming along. My name is Bando. This has been Backlog with Bando.